You're listening to Games from the Cellar, where we play board games and then we talk about them. I'm Steven, your host, and tonight I was joined by John to play a couple of games of Biblios. Biblios was designed by Steve Finn in 2007 and was originally published as Scripts and Scribes through Dr. Finn's Games. It is currently published by IELLO. It was nominated twice for Golden Geek Awards for Best Card Game in 2008 and in 2009. At the time of this recording, Biblios has a 7.2 rating with 17,000 ratings on BoardGameGeek. It is currently ranked 410. It is a 2 to 4 player lightweight game that plays in about 30 minutes. So thank you for joining us in the cellar as we go in depth with Biblios. Alright, so we're sitting down with Biblios, also known as Scripts and Scribes. This is a Steve Finn jaunt. This one I recall from a long time ago when we first started gaming, like early 2000s. This was just like a little, was it a print and play that you had, or did you actually purchase it somewhere?
I think Steve kind of self-published. I'm not sure if he had a small publishing company that he worked through, or if he put the pieces together himself. But it was a neat little package. The art was good, but not great. But it kind of had its own feel to it, so it kind of cut its own space. So I liked it that way, and I tend to like stuff that's a little more close to the edge. So I thought it looked good.
Yeah. So it's a real simple game. If I recall, it comes in two phases. Where the first phase is, it's essentially like a 2-player draft. So you put out 3 cards or 4 cards. I can't recall. We'll have to look at the rules, but then basically what you're doing is you're picking one, your opponent picks one goes into the middle, and the other one gets discarded. Is that how you recall it happening?
Or does the person who pulls the cards assign them as they see fit? I don't recall.
Yeah, so there's a bit of drafting in the first phase, and then in the second phase, you, with the cards that you drafted, essentially you try to get some money cards. Right. You are then purchasing the cards that weren't drafted in the first phase to make sets, to build sets.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is, A, grab money so you can buy cards in the second phase. Mm-hmm. You're B, trying to create sets in your own hand in the beginning.
Right.
And then C, you're also trying to put cards into the auction in the second round, knowing that you'll be able to buy them back.
Right.
To try to make your sets even bigger.
Right, and on top of all of this, there is a manipulatable marketplace that makes some things more valuable and other things less, and you kind of everybody at the table can kind of change that marketplace around as they see fit.
Yeah, so I have the IELLO version. It's a nice package. It's got that really cool book-looking box with the magnet clasp and everything. It's also got a small board that basically has 5 spaces with 5 different colored dice. You don't get to roll these dice. These dice are for marking the value of the sets that you collect. So in the beginning of the game, they all start at 3. And as cards come up, you'll change 1 or 2, up or down 1 or 2 spaces, depending on what the card says, thus increasing the value or decreasing the value of the different sets. So I recall having a really good time with this one with you way back in the day.
Yeah.
And I know I've played it a few times since then, especially on this copy, but I don't know how many of those have been recorded, so I can't say for certain how many games we've played. But I imagine it's probably been like 5 or 6 over the last 10 years or so. Probably more than that earlier on.
Yeah, I remember playing out with my set a bunch. I'm not sure if I remember playing with this set, and I'm not sure how long you've had this. So it may have been a while for me, but it's a game that I seem to remember always looking forward to coming back to whenever I get the opportunity.
Yeah, this one is 2014.
Oh, okay, so it's been out a while.
Yeah, so this one's been out a bit. It's still pretty available. I know I've seen it in the game store here in town, so I know we've played a couple of games that might be harder to find, such as Primordial Soup and Thebes. Well, I think Thebes is pretty easy to find now, but
by you.
This one, if you enjoy the conversation that we have, this one should be easy for you to track down.
Yeah, and not terribly expensive too.
Yeah, it's just a card game, and it's a really fun card game. So I think we're going to go ahead and get this one a play, and we will report back when we are done. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start this off by saying the brief rules explanation that I gave at the beginning, completely wrong. It's been, 2017 since the last time we played this, so that's
5 years.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Which is wrong.
Things got a little dusty and whatever, but, as you said, it was wrong. We corrected that mistake because this is such a fantastic little game. I mean, we knocked out 2 games and... it looks like about an hour.
Yep.
So half hour each. And,
including the post-game show.
Yeah. And, it's just such a great little game. Like, this guy, Steve Finn, just, really knocked it out of the park with just the simplicity of just how this game comes together. I will denote, this is not the rule book is a little wonky. You can't play as you go. You have to read the entire rulebook because at the end of the rulebook, it explains how the church cards work. But you need to know that in the first part of the game. So we had gotten all the way to the second part. We were looking at the rules for the second part, and it's like, oh, hey, by the way, there are these cards you're going to get, and this is how you deal with them. And we did not deal with them in that way. So we had to kind of on the fly kind of come up with
we wiggled out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we made it work, but we had more information than we should have, and whatever.
It was.
It works. It worked out fine. Yeah. Second game, we knew exactly what we were doing.
So we went through a learning game a third time. I mean, because we've been playing this since 2008. So here's a game that's been in our portfolio for 14 years, and this is my argument for not having B- games on your shelf because they get in the way of cute little games like this. You're sitting there trying the new Kickstarter that somebody put out that's, about elephants getting dropped out of airplanes or who knows what. And you're trying out those instead of pulling out a game like Biblios that just is going to be a good time every time you play it. You're better off having less games of higher quality. Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of game that, and frankly, it'll fit in your glove box. It's the kind of game that you can just have with you all the time. I
mean, you don't even need the box, honestly. And you don't need the little board that comes with it. It's nice, but all you need is the deck of cards and the dice. I mean, you could very easily fit this in a quiver and take it on the go with, a couple other games. So, I mean, for people that have a quiver of games, this would be a very easy inclusion into the quiver.
Yeah, this is a nice inclusion. Yeah, and this is a game when the power goes out at your house and you're looking for something to do, because kids can play this too. I mean, this is not a game where you need to be a hardcore gamer. I mean, it's a game where I don't want to say you can coach, but you can heckle the other player while they're making their decisions because you have enough of an insight into what's going on to see. And
you know what I really like about it is you get to make decisions for the other player as well, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was talking about the draft, and that was where I was completely wrong. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking one card off you're taking one card off the deck at a time. You're looking at it as the active player, and you are deciding to either keep it for yourself, put it into the auction, or putting it into the public space. So in a 2-player game, there is no public space per se. You're just handing it to the other player. In a multiplayer game, the public space, we'll say a 4-player game, there'll be 3 cards in the public space. Then the player to your left gets to pick one, the next player, and then the player on your right gets the last card. So there's a little bit of draft that way. But in a 2-player game, it's really cool because it's like, this is your card. You get to deal with it.
Kiddo. Here's your garbage.
Happy birthday. Yeah, here's your garbage. On the flip side, if it's that third card and you're me with my bad luck, it's like, oh, I just handed you the game. Congratulations. Right. And then you're looking for the church cards to devalue that big card that you just passed to the next player.
So it's curious that this is a pretty doggone small game, but it manages to work about 5 or 6 different pieces. There's that push your luck element into you're doing a card draft, but you get to decide all the draft on your own, which sometimes feels wonderful, and sometimes you just feel like you stuck a knife in your eye because you just made an awful decision. But then on top of there's an auction mechanic that kind of pulls things together, and there's a way you can run out of money and get money back halfway through the auction. So there's all these crazy things. There's all these push your luck elements in it that keep you on your toes the entire time, and you never short a game as it is, if you end up kind of self-destructing, it's no big deal because you just rack it up. It's a game, and I looked at my logged plays every single time I've sat down to this game. I've played more than one game because you just, at the end you lose by 1 point. You say, set it back up. We're not done. We're going again.
It's so easy just to play a set of these, and best 2 out of 3, or that's probably the way to play it. But we only played twice because we've got something else that we were looking at to play tonight, and we wanted to record the episode. So, it's the same principle that you were talking about, how having good quality games in your collection sometimes is more valuable than having the newest, biggest Kickstarter. And it's the same principle that I kind of mentioned in the Acquire episode. Like, it's really good to have these really short, simple games that you can kind of decompress on, but not so simple that they're mindless activities. So as I was mentioning in the episode on Acquire, it's really cool to have these less complicated but still kind of complex and brain burnery games in your collection, because you need that decompression sometimes. Like, this is a rule book that could literally be printed in a decent sized font on one sheet of 8.5 by 11.
Yeah.
And, you got the Kickstarter monstrosities that have, 40-page rule books with a 30-page appendix and then like a 10-page reference document.
And rules on 104 cards that for some reason seems to be important, that in order just bigger is not necessarily better. And something like this is just such a great example of how you can do something smaller and do something better. And you could run a tournament. You could bring this to a game night where you've got 6 or 8 people showing up. If you had 2 copies of this, you could run a tournament. You could play, everybody could play 10 or 12 games. You could do it like a ladder or whatever. You'd be done in a night, and you'd all have a great time. You'd all have stories to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know the Scripts and Scribes version, it was self-published. It was kind of like on a shoestring budget, but this IELLO version is so beautiful. Like, the dice are big and chunky. They've got really good color.
Yeah,
they
great
match
color.
The cards, and just the overall presentation, the art on the cards, just the way the information's presented to you, it's just such a great package. I think everybody should try this one.
And I'm a big fan of having the original copies because I kind of feel special doing it. But this is clearly a better package. This is a much, the art is better. You're right. The colors on the dice, you just have to take a photograph because they're these deep, rich colors. It's really, IELLO just knocked it out of the park from the packaging perspective. I think they did a great job too.
All right, so I think we've exhausted everything there is to say about Biblios. It's a fantastic package. It's a fantastic game. And I think it's time that we give our rating for it. So, we use the Board Game Geek 1 to 10 rating method. Say what you will, it's the one that we're going to use just because it's the one that most people use. So, John, looking at this package of Biblios, the 2 games that we played tonight, the games that we've played in our history as gamers together, taking all that into account, how would you, 1 to 10, rate Biblios?
I think it is definitely a strong 7. In fact, to a certain extent, I kind of kick myself for not getting this game out more. And I think this is a kind of game that we need to be pulling out once every 3 months, just to get a quick game in here or there. A great game to introduce to other people. It's just a great play. It's an easy 7 for me.
Yeah, and this one could be one of those that you keep close to the table, so that when there are 2-3 people at the table and you're waiting for, say, Sam to show up, you can pull this out, throw a game together, and Sam can watch you score as he walks in the door. I mean, it's I wouldn't call it filler material, but it's short enough that it can fit in that filler space. And I say that it's not a filler because there are a lot of meaningful decisions.
It's engaging enough.
It's a chunky game. I mean, it's got some. I hate to say it, but it's got some girth to it.
And some games kind of get out of your way, and you're talking about this or that, and you're complaining about work, or you're talking about where you're going on the weekend. This game has enough presence that it's what the topic of conversation is. When you're playing the game, you're talking about the game because there's enough there.
Yeah. So all that to say, on the 1 to 10 on Board Game Geek, I mean, This is as 7 as a 7 can get. This is such a great game. Like I said before, I think everybody should try this one at least once. Nope. Everybody should try this at least twice.
That's right, because you're going to play twice.
You're going to play it 2 times.
Fair warning. If you pull it out to play once, you're going to play twice.
Yep. All right, so that is Biblios by Steve Finn. Thank you for joining our conversation. We look forward to hearing from you soon. John and I thank you for joining us in conversation about Biblios. You can join us in conversation by visiting our website, cellargames.com, where you can find links to our social media and Discord server. We also have a blog and a guild on Board Game Geek. We look forward to hearing from you.